Good Monday morning, week 2 for the Jets and Giants in the books, and this was about to be one of those days for the Giants and their fans, where everything got called into question. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Joe Shane, Brian Daboll. What happened to this team? It's Joe Judge all over again, until Daniel Jones and his $40 million a year contract put the team on his back and save the season, because we all think that they're going to lose to the Niners on Thursday night. At least there's a good chance that they lose to the Niners on Thursday night, and 0-3 is completely dead. But Daniel Jones wasn't having it. One of their best comebacks ever. I think the biggest in franchise history, and now they are 1-1, and they've saved the season. And I didn't believe that the Jets had a shot against the Cowboys. I'm sure we'll get into more of that as the day goes on, but that was just ugly. It was over early, and they're going to have a long way to go to be able to score some points. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, G. I'm doing all right. And I'll tell you what, I think you nailed it. I think Daniel Jones saved the season for whatever that's worth. And I know there's 15 games left to go. And a lot of people at halftime yesterday were disgusted and angry and screaming and yelling all over social media for sure. But then Daniel Jones and that $41 million contract came through, because without him, they're not winning that game. I mean, the offensive line was terrible yesterday. I can't even begin to tell you how many times he had to run out of the pocket just to save his life, and then was making plays. And by the way, they did find a wide receiver. His name's Jalen Hyatt. He made a couple really nice plays in the second half, and it was like a completely different team. It really was. And defensively, they have a lot to clean up. There's virtually no pass rush whatsoever. And we'll see a very interesting game Thursday night out in San Francisco when they play one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, they were getting bullied around early on in this game on both sides of the ball. I mean, James Conner was just bowling people over. It was as if the Giants were disinterested in playing defense in the first half. Even Josh Dobbs on that touchdown run, he runs right through Xavier McKinney. And just knocks him right over. Josh Dobbs never had a rushing TD in his career. Bowls over Xavier McKinney. James Conner's going crazy. That everything was going the Cardinals' way, and the Giants were just they looked totally flat on the sideline, on the field, and then things changed. But I was even a little worried after the Giants go right down and score a touchdown in the third quarter. Then here come the Cardinals again. And then you're thinking, okay, they just don't have it defensively today. But then the 3-and-outs started coming, and then Daniel Jones did what he did. And the thing about Jalen Hyatt, yes, they found a receiver, but Daniel Jones trusts him right away. And that doesn't normally happen with a rookie wide receiver. He's throwing the ball up to him one-on-one, saying, go get it, go make the play. So the fact that they've developed that relationship is going to be huge for this offense. But as far as the negative part of it, you're right. They generate absolutely no pass rush, and their run defense, pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
And look who they're playing on Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't know what the early spread on this game is.
It's got to be somewhere around 10. And maybe if Sean McVay's in charge here, somehow the Giants will cover with a late field goal.
Yeah, it is. Let's see if we go
9.5, 10, maybe 11.
Stand by. I actually don't. I only have the Monday nights right now, but it's going to be. Here we go. It is on Thursday night, 10. Yeah,
10. There you go. I mean, let's face it. We could sit here and we're going to talk about it all day long about how Daniel Jones showed everybody that he's, a big-time quarterback. To me, it was the best half of football he's played. Now, I'm sure if I go back over the course of his career, there's going to be other quarters where he's played really well. But, yesterday, that you got to give him all the respect in the world. And I don't give a damn who you're playing. You're still playing in the NFL. You're one of 32 teams. We as the fans and the media and everybody else could say that the Cardinals are tanking, but when you watch the players play, they don't think that way. Just like when the Jets beat the Rams a couple years ago and it cost them Trevor Lawrence in the draft.
Yep.
The players don't think that way. The coaches may be getting directives from owners and GMs about playing certain guys if a guy's nicked up or whatever, and not playing that guy because they want to lessen their chances to win to get a higher draft pick, a la tanking. I can understand that, but this is too early in the season. When you look at the Cardinals' effort yesterday, the players aren't trying to tank.
Yeah, we always say that organizations tank, players don't.
Right.
I mean, Josh Dobbs looks at it as he's this first real opportunity to start games and multiple games in a row. The organization is saying, let's just throw him out there, try to lose some games, and we'll get Caleb Williams potentially, and we'll move on from Kyler Murray. But the players aren't thinking. James Conner wasn't thinking that when he was celebrating all those big runs. Josh Dobbs wasn't thinking that when he got in the end zone. And the Giants just, they had to win this game for the entire season. I know it sounds dramatic, but 0-3, they're cooked. They're done. They're not going back to the playoffs. They've got two other teams in their division that are two of the best in the conference, could be the top two in the conference. They're playing another one in the 49ers. But they 0-3 in that division with having to play the Eagles twice coming up at the end of the year, having to play the Cowboys again at the end of the year. Plus, they've got the Dolphins on the schedule. They've got the Bills on the schedule. I mean, this was so critical for them. It could have gotten to 1-5, 0-6 really quickly.
I know this. When we started this season, we started looking at all these schedules. We were just saying if somehow the Giants can get to 2-2 after 4, I think that we would have to take that and feel like, okay, maybe they can do something with the rest of their schedule. But that means they're going to have to beat Seattle. That means they're going to, because they play San Francisco and then home against Seattle. And Seattle goes into Detroit yesterday. They get their act together because they lost their home opener to the Rams. And Geno Smith goes off yesterday. So that game, like none of these games are going to be easy. But, I mean, you take a look at this. The Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Bills, and how about the Commanders? The Commanders are 2-0 now.
Yeah.
And it looks like they found a quarterback in Sam Howell.
Yeah, so that stretch is really bad. Now, the Commanders, the Jets, and the Raiders, it's a little bit easier than the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, and the Bills in that stretch. So you just got to survive. You have to survive, and it starts here with the 49ers, but I don't think there's anybody that expects that the Giants can get this done. Not even the hardest, most intense, positive fan that they have is probably going to be very skeptical at being able to, on a short week, go into San Francisco, beat the 49ers, most likely without Saquon Barkley and maybe without Andrew Thomas again.
By the way, not most likely without Saquon Barkley. Yeah. Saquon Barkley's out.
He has to
and
be.
He's going to be out for an extended period of time. I don't care, high ankle sprain, low ankle sprain. He's a running back. This is why they don't pay these guys. This happens every year. We already lost J.K. Dobbins, who was holding out. He wanted money. He blew his knee out. And, by the way, that was on grass.
Yep.
For those arguing between, grass and, of course, turf, yesterday happened on grass for Saquon Barkley. And they supposedly have great grass out there in Arizona. So that argument goes by the wayside with me. I don't want to hear it. I mean, it's ridiculous. The Baltimore Ravens lost 4 guys in week 1 on grass in their own building. There was one injury in the game, major injury in the game between the Bills and the Jets, and of course it was Aaron Rodgers. And the Bills didn't have anybody on their injured list going into yesterday's game against the Raiders. So that argument falls on deaf ears when it comes to me. I don't care what anybody says. And by the way, MetLife did change the turf out from the previous turf where players were complaining about it. So that whole thing, I'm done with that whole thing. But I will say that you talk about a must-win game. When you think about what the Jets have coming up and who they're playing and who their quarterback is and some of the bonehead throws that he made in the fourth quarter yesterday, these are the things that just he's not getting any better. I mean, there were plays where I saw that, obviously the Garrett Wilson touchdown pass, when he sets his feet and he knows where he's going, it's great. When he has to break the pocket, and he had to break the pocket a couple times yesterday because Micah Parsons is all over the place, and he is so sudden and so fast. That first sack that Micah Parsons had, he came from his right defensive end position, the edge, and he came up the middle on one of their stunts, and the offensive line could not react to it. He was in the backfield in less than 2 seconds, and he got up to a speed of 12 miles an hour within about 7 yards.
Yeah, and I ended up seeing those analytics as well, and just with the naked eye, without even seeing that or knowing that was one of the fastest moves I had ever seen. I mean, it's crazy. He is one of those guys that jumps. If you had not watched football for 5 years and just watched him play in one quarter, you would know immediately who he was, how good he is, the fact that he's probably going to be right up there with Defensive Player of the Year. That Cowboys team is very, very good on both sides of the ball, and that's going to be a story the entire year. And Mike McCarthy's got that offense looking different than they have the last couple of years. But I'm with you on Zach Wilson. Of course, I was negative going into this, and it's enough with like the little pats on the back with stuff. This is what's driving me crazy. Like, oh, he stepped into that throw. Or, oh, he made a nice throw there to Garrett Wilson. It's like everybody's so starved and so thirsty for him to do something positive that those little positive things get blown out of proportion. Because they're just wanting. The Jet fan doesn't want this season to go down the drain, and good for them that they're staying positive. But they take every little completion and every little throw and say, oh, look, he can do it. He can do it. Well, he can't. I mean, they didn't have the ball, and I understand that the defense didn't get off the field yesterday, and that's a big part of this too. But if the offense can't get first downs and you can't hold on to the ball yourself, that's also a big problem for the defense. It works hand in hand. When you have a quarterback that nobody respects, especially one of the best defenses in football, that's what's going to happen. They don't respect him. They know he stinks.
Well, the 3 interceptions were eye-opening. You know, he tried to force one to Garrett Wilson, and Hooker comes over and makes an easy interception. The interception he throws to Curse, Curse is about as big as they get when it comes to linebackers and safeties. And he's sitting there in a big, ginormous white jersey with the number 1 on it. And Zach, of course, is breaking the pocket because Micah Parsons is bringing in the heat. And he runs to the right and throws it right to Curse. I think he was trying to throw it to, I believe it was Garrett Wilson behind him. But, I mean, you can't do stuff like that. And then, of course, the final interception, he just misthrows it. And Diggs is sitting on it. And here's the thing about the Jets. One player, or actually 2 players, I will say, and I will give Zach credit in this regard, and only this regard right now. Both he and Garrett Wilson were the ones after the games that said, number 1, I have to get better. Number 2, give credit where credit is due. Trayvon Diggs basically outplayed me. This is what Garrett Wilson said. He's not on Twitter and social media fighting with the fans, and sticking up for themselves, that kind of thing. And, when you think about the social media aspect of the Jets and how they are so active after games, this is on the coach.
Yep.
To me. I mean, does anybody in New England get on Twitter and start yapping away and fighting with the fans?
I don't see that basically ever. I never have under Bill Belichick. I know there's been some goofy stuff out there, and he's had his issues, and obviously there's been some players who've gone through there, had some issues. But as far as social media stuff and complaining about the team and bitching about their role, that stuff doesn't happen. And if it did, they'd be gone the next day.
And I would also say that most likely the fans that were going after Sauce Gardner are most likely the Cowboy fans, not Jet fans. Jet fans love Sauce Gardner. Jet fans love Garrett Wilson. Jet fans are not enamored with Zach Wilson, I can tell you that. But, you can't sit here and just basically, after the game, go immediately to your phone and start fighting with people about your performance and everything else. Your team lost. It's about, and that's the one thing I will say about Belichick. He is all over those guys up there about this is your team. You are not an individual when you are out here and you are representing our franchise. And I don't want to see any crap on social media.
Yeah, and Breece Hall also was another one. He deleted the tweet, and I think that Sauce Gardner ended up deactivating his entire Twitter. But Breece Hall tweeted out 4 footballs and then ... representing the amount of carries that he got. So he's complaining about his usage on Twitter as well, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is another one of these things that Rob Saleh lets get out of control. He's your buddy. He wants you to be you. He wants to make sure your personality shines through, but then it goes too far. And it goes too far last year when guys were liking tweets about how Zach Wilson wasn't any good. It went too far with the Mike White T-shirts. It went too far in the offseason with guys like Mekhi Becton and Quinnen Williams bitching on Twitter about either their role or their contract situation, and it continues now. It could have been addressed 10 million times. He either hasn't addressed it or the team doesn't respect him enough to listen to what he's saying about it. And it just continues. And if this season spirals out of control, and I don't think that it will, but there's potential for that, I mean, this stuff is going to add fuel to the fire. And he's got to stop that right now. There's enough of this buddy, pat you on the ass crap. Enough. This was supposed to be a Super Bowl season for them. And they got to get their crap together. And he could stand up there and give you any sort of motivational meme speech in the world. How about just get your crap together? How about that? Be a professional. Be an adult. Represent this organization. Don't run to social media and bitch about stuff. You look like a joke after that.
Well, that's the point. And I again, like I said, most Jet fans, if not all Jet fans, appreciate Garrett Wilson, appreciate Sauce Gardner. They were rookies of the year last year. and to get mired into arguments with fans on social media, you're just going to get made fun of.
Yeah.
You're just going to basically be ridiculed. You are going to be, for lack of a better word, I guess, mired in disrespect, because that's basically what it comes down to. And it could be any fan base. It's not your fan base. You're arguing against Cowboy fans. You're arguing against other fans of other teams, that are trying to get under your skin. And the moment that you get trolled and you react, how many times we get trolled, on the NFL today?
Well,
you know how many times.
Too, yeah, of course.
It's a million things.
That's what happens.
You say one thing bad about one team, one guy or anything, or you put out something and you say, hey, look at what Daniel Jones did. He did something that no Giant's ever done, that very few players have ever done. And the only player that's ever done what he did in the second half yesterday was Michael Vick. And he did it back in 2000. And then immediately the trolls come back. And when you read it, it's kind of funny. But, it's all like, Boomer, you don't know what you're talking about. They played the worst team in the league. They suck. This should have never even gotten to this point. I'm like, wait a minute, time out. Well, it got to a point where a guy did something about it.
Yep.
A guy came out and he busted his ass to win a football game because he played a game. I'm telling you, Daniel Jones in that second half played a game like his life depended on it. Like the $41 million, everything depended on his performance in the second half.
You could see it in his eyes on the sideline.
Oh, my God.
He changed.
He was possessed.
Yeah, and I very rarely seen him like that.
It's great to see that.
It was. And this is why the Giants ended up paying him, because they knew that was in him after some of the issues last year, and then some of the positivity that we ended up seeing with him at the end of the year and the great playoff game he played up in Minnesota. That's why he got the money, because he's capable of that. And Brian Daboll and Joe Shea knew that he was capable of that.
I don't know if he's going to be capable of that against a defense like the 49ers.
Oh, yeah, of course. Nobody really is,
especially with
right?
Saquon Barkley out now again, which is basically becoming a reoccurring theme, it seems like, every year.
Right.
But Daniel Jones showed yesterday that he's worth every penny. And, you can sit here and you can make fun of the fact that it was the Cardinals and, you were flat in the first half and you looked like the worst team in football. If you scroll through the Giants' kind of social media, by halftime, everybody wanted Brian Daboll fired again.
Right, which is exactly what we were talking about on Friday.
And thank God the team, and thank God, Daniel Jones doesn't feel the same way that a lot of the fan base felt at that moment. Because if he did, then the whole thing would have collapsed and the season would be over.
Yeah, we sitting here at 0-2 staring 0-3 in the face. All right, Boomer and Gio just getting started on this Football Monday and the Fan.